Imagine two countries. They share the same language, the same culture, the same history, the same ancestors. For thousands of years, they were one nation. Yet today, one has become home to global companies worth hundreds of billions of dollars, lightning-fast internet, futuristic cities, and one of the world's strongest economies. The other remains one of the most isolated and secretive places on Earth, where millions struggle with food shortages, strict government control, and an economy that has barely changed for decades. How did this happen? How could two nations that began with nearly identical people, traditions, and natural resources end up living completely different lives? Was it because one country had more natural resources? Was one simply luckier? Or did a few critical decisions change the course of history forever? The answer is far more surprising than most people realize. This is not just the story of South Korea and North Korea. It's a story about leadership, war, economics, innovation, and the choices that can shape the future of an entire nation. Today, South Korea is known around the world for companies like Samsung, Hyundai, LG, Kia, and global entertainment that reaches millions of people every day. Its cities are filled with advanced technology, efficient transportation, and thriving businesses. Meanwhile, North Korea remains largely closed to the outside world, with limited trade, frequent economic difficulties, and strict restrictions on information and daily life. But it wasn't always this way.
In fact, there was a time when many experts believed North Korea would become richer than the South. So what changed? Before we uncover the turning points that transformed one nation while the other struggled, take a second to subscribe to Beyond Maps. If you enjoy documentaries that explain history, geography, economics, and the hidden stories behind the world's greatest successes and failures, you're in the right place. Now, let's go back to a time when there wasn't a North Korea or a South Korea. There was simply one Korea. For centuries, Korea remained a single nation. Then, in the early 20th century, foreign powers arrived. Occupation, war, and one political decision after World War II would divide the peninsula forever. In 1910, Korea lost its independence. Japan officially annexed the Korean peninsula, bringing it under colonial rule for the next 35 years. During that time, Korean culture faced heavy restrictions. Many Koreans were forced to adopt Japanese names. The Korean language was discouraged in schools. Natural resources and industrial production were directed toward Japan's growing empire. For millions of Koreans, these were years of hardship, uncertainty, and resistance. Everything changed in 1945. Japan surrendered at the end of World War II. Koreans celebrated, believing their country would finally become independent again. But instead of gaining complete freedom, a new problem emerged. The United States and the Soviet Union agreed to temporarily divide Korea into two occupation zones. The dividing line followed the 38th parallel. Soviet forces entered from the north. American forces entered from the south. At first, many believed the division would last only a short time. History had other plans. As tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union increased, cooperation became almost impossible. The Cold War had begun. Instead of forming one united government, two separate governments were established in 1948, one in the north, one in the south. Each claimed to be the legitimate government of the entire Korean peninsula. Neither accepted the other. The division was no longer temporary. It had become political. Just 2 years later, the situation exploded. On June 25, 1950, war broke out. What followed was one of the most destructive conflicts of the 20th century. Cities were devastated. Families were separated.
Millions of civilians were forced to flee their homes. For 3 years, the fighting moved back and forth across the peninsula, leaving destruction almost everywhere. When the guns finally fell silent in 1953, there was no peace treaty, only an armistice. Technically, the two Koreas remain at war even today. When the war ended, neither side looked like a future success story. Factories had been destroyed. Infrastructure lay in ruins. Millions of people had lost everything. Both countries faced the same difficult question. How do you rebuild a nation from almost nothing? Their answers would be completely different. And those different choices would shape the future of millions for generations.
The war had ended. The rebuilding was about to begin. But while both countries started from similar devastation, they chose completely different paths.
When the fighting stopped in 1953, South Korea wasn't a wealthy nation. Far from it. Its economy was among the weakest in the world, and many families struggled to meet even their basic needs. For years, survival, not prosperity, was the country's biggest concern. Yet, within a single generation, South Korea began one of the most remarkable economic transformations in modern history. Today, that transformation is known as the Miracle on the Han River.
Rather than trying to develop every industry at once, South Korea focused on producing goods that could compete in international markets. The country encouraged businesses to manufacture products for export instead of relying mainly on domestic sales. This strategy opened the door to customers far beyond its borders. Every successful shipment brought new income, new experience, and greater confidence. As exports increased, industries expanded. As industries expanded, more jobs were created. And as employment grew, living standards steadily improved.
Rather than trying to develop every industry at once, South Korea focused. The government also supported a small number of ambitious companies that showed the potential to compete globally. Over time, these businesses grew into internationally recognized brands. Samsung, Hyundai, LG, Kia. Their products reached homes, offices, and roads across the world. But success didn't happen overnight. These companies invested heavily in research, engineering, and continuous improvement. Instead of following global trends, they gradually began creating them. Education became another powerful driver of progress. Parents placed enormous value on learning. Students worked hard to develop technical skills, scientific knowledge, and professional expertise. Universities produced engineers, doctors, scientists, and innovators who would help shape the country's future. For South Korea, developing human talent became just as important as developing its economy. As incomes increased, cities transformed. Modern highways connected regions. High-speed rail linked major cities. Technology became part of everyday life. South Korea embraced innovation at an extraordinary pace, becoming one of the world's leaders in internet connectivity, electronics, and advanced manufacturing. The country had gone from rebuilding after war to helping shape the technologies of the future. By the beginning of the 21st century, South Korea had achieved something few believed possible. It had transformed itself into one of the world's leading economies. But while the South was opening its doors to global markets, the North was taking a very different path. And that decision would create one of the greatest economic contrasts in modern history. While South Korea was building stronger connections with the global economy, North Korea chose a very different direction. Its leadership believed that relying on other countries could weaken national independence. Instead, the country adopted an ideology known as juche, often translated as self-reliance. The goal was simple: produce as much as possible at home, reduce dependence on foreign nations, and maintain complete control over the country's direction. At first, this approach appeared promising. Large state-owned factories were established. Heavy industries expanded. Major construction projects reshaped cities. For a period, North Korea's industrial production compared favorably with many developing countries.
But over time, serious weaknesses began to emerge. Because nearly all major industries were controlled by the government, competition was extremely limited. Without competition, businesses had little incentive to improve efficiency, develop new technologies, or respond to changing global markets. Innovation slowed. Productivity declined. Economic growth became increasingly difficult to sustain. International trade also became increasingly restricted. As many countries expanded their economic partnerships across the world, North Korea remained largely separated from global markets. Limited access to foreign investment, advanced technology, and international finance reduced opportunities for long-term economic expansion. When economies stop exchanging ideas, products, and knowledge with the rest of the world, keeping pace with rapid global change becomes much harder. The situation became even more difficult after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. For decades, North Korea had relied on economic support from one of its closest allies. When that support disappeared, fuel supplies became scarce. Industrial output declined. Agricultural production suffered. The country entered one of the most difficult periods in its modern history. Many communities faced severe food shortages, and the economy struggled to recover. Despite these challenges, North Korea has continued pursuing its own economic path. Small markets have appeared in some areas. Certain industries have adapted over time, and limited economic reforms have taken place in specific sectors. However, compared with the rapid transformation seen elsewhere in East Asia, change has remained gradual. Today, the contrast between the two Koreas is visible not only in their economies, but also in daily life, technology, international connections, and opportunities available to ordinary citizens. Yet this story isn't simply about one country succeeding while another struggled. It raises a much bigger question. How much can national decisions influence the future of millions of people? And what lessons can the rest of the world learn from two nations that began their modern history side by side, but arrived at completely different destinations? The Korean Peninsula remains divided to this day, but its story offers lessons that reach far beyond Asia. More than 70 years have passed since the Korean Peninsula was divided. An entire lifetime has unfolded on both sides of the border. Children became parents. Parents became grandparents. And generation after generation has grown up knowing only one reality. For millions of families, the division was never just political. It became deeply personal. Brothers and sisters were separated. Parents lost contact with their children. Relatives who once lived only a few miles apart suddenly found themselves unable to meet again. For many, those reunions never came. Despite their different paths, both countries have shown remarkable resilience. Each has faced enormous challenges shaped by history, geography, and international events. Their experiences remind us that the future of a nation is rarely determined by a single moment. Instead, it is shaped by thousands of decisions made over decades. Some produce opportunities that last for generations. Others create obstacles that can take just as long to overcome. History doesn't change overnight. It changes gradually, one decision at a time. Today,
The Korean Peninsula remains one of the most closely watched regions in the world. Diplomatic talks continue from time to time. Leaders meet. New proposals are discussed. Yet lasting peace remains one of the greatest challenges in modern international relations. No one can say with certainty what the future will look like. But one thing is clear. The choices made in the years ahead will influence not only the Korean people, but also the wider region and the global economy. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Korea is this: a country's future is not written by geography alone. It is shaped by vision, by institutions, by education, by innovation, by cooperation, and by the willingness to prepare for challenges that may still be years away. These principles extend far beyond one peninsula. They are lessons that every nation and every generation can reflect upon. The story of North and South Korea is more than a comparison between two neighbors. It is a reminder that history is never inevitable. The decisions made today can shape the lives of millions tomorrow. And sometimes, the smallest turning points become the moments that change everything. Every country has a story. Some are shaped by geography, others by conflict, and some by the choices they make when history gives them a chance to begin again. Here on Beyond Maps, we'll continue uncovering the history, geography, and hidden decisions that shaped our world. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Beyond Maps, and let us know in the comments, which country's story should we explore next? Until our next journey, remember this: every map shows where a country is. Beyond Maps shows why it became what it is. See you in the next documentary.